Welcome back to Heber Valley Life Podcast, where we talk about the people shaping the future of our valley and help make sense of the projects, policies, and decisions that impact daily life here in Heber Valley. Today, I'm joined by Wyatt Woolley with the Department of Transportation. Wyatt has been involved in several major transportation projects that are affecting our region, including the improvements to U.S. Highway 189, the restoration of the work in Daniels Canyon, and most notably, the ongoing Heber Valley Corridor Environmental Impact Statement, where Alternative B has been identified as the preferred route. These projects raise important questions about safety, congestion, historic preservation, environment, impacts, and long-term growth. My goal today is to walk through the facts, clarify what's happening, and help our community better understand how these projects fit together and what they mean for the future of Heber Valley. So Wyatt, welcome.
Thank you.
You are the PIO, Public Information Officer for Region 3. How long have you been with UDOT?
Almost 5 years now.
Okay.
Been Region 3 for almost 3 years.
And, you have a great team with Craig Hancock and,
Craig Hancock is our project manager.
yes.
He's the project manager for this area too, so he does a lot of projects.
How many people are involved with Region 3? We
had 240 employees in Region 3.
Yeah, that's a huge team.
And growing.
Right. So when we often see Craig in the meetings, I think people maybe don't recognize that there's a whole team of people back in the office that are doing the research. And while he's the spokesperson, and you as well, there's a lot of work that's being done for transportation needs in this area.
There really is.
Yeah.
And I have to say that UDOT, I know people look at it UDOT as like a bureaucracy. We're like this government agency, but we live here. We work here. We are in the valley. We have people on our maintenance teams and our construction crews, and even our statewide programmer lives here in the valley and have for generations and years and years and years. And so we're significantly interested in helping transportation, particularly to this valley.
Yeah. It's interesting. UDOT gets a bad rap, but I have to compliment the PR team. I think the social media has been really fun and poking fun at yourselves.
Amy does a good job at that. Yeah.
But also, just being real with, we recognize that construction is a pain, and we all recognize that. We know that summer is construction season, but it's been interesting with the growth in Utah and particularly in our area.
Yeah.
Road development has been crucial to improve transportation flow. Safety has been a number one issue. I just remember in my lifetime watching and just losing loved ones to Provo Canyon.
Yes.
And, that used to be really scary in the winter. And over the years, we've seen the improvements. We've seen the double split lanes. But it's been interesting this last leg. I want to start by talking about the project that is happening right now on 189. Between Walsburg and Charleston, it's been identified as a project, but it's had some conversations around Charleston intersection particularly. Mm-hmm. And also the marina and just Deer Creek Island Resort.
Yeah.
And how those are impacted, and how do you plan around things where you've got a major recreation facility, Lake Reservoir, but we also have this corridor of transportation that is right there next to the reservoir. So talk me through kind of the process with 189 and this last leg of dividing that highway.
Okay. 189 for me, this Provo Canyon, and this is my favorite project currently right now, because I go way back to, I worked the Winter Olympics 2002. And I remember I was just a college kid, and I remember coming up and the road is split, and then it comes together. I'm like, oh, why do they do it? Why can't they just keep this? But I didn't understand how funding works or roads work or anything like that back then. And so I always wanted to be split. So I'm excited for this to finally happen 24 years later, or it finally happened. And to go back even farther, my dad's first job was up here in Heber at the hospital. When he was at BYU, he'd come up the canyon. He'd come up that windy road, even in wintertime.
Black ice. It was a scary
ride. It was scary. He'd actually spend the night up here at the old hospital, just up the road over here, because he didn't want to have to go up and down the canyon. And when I brought him here a few years ago, he's going to turn 80 this year, and he wanted to see the valley. And he's like, where are we? I don't recognize this place. It's so different. It's changed so much since 1970, whatever. And I said, Dad, we're gonna improve things. Things are gonna be so much better for everyone as we build this road. In particular with 189, when we're widening this project, we saw the need. We just the need is there to make it safer and more efficient for everyone to get through that canyon. And so that's why we're doing this split level design. And it actually is going to save us money too by making it go up a little bit and over a little, that we are able to separate, have that barrier, if you will, a physical separation between oncoming traffic. And also it'll make it safer for people going around those bends around here. We've had some significant fatalities and injuries going around those bends, and this will help greatly reduce that risk. 113, we're going to have a signalized intersection for the first time ever. That's going to be great. If anyone comes up from Provo at 5 o'clock ish in the afternoon and they see everyone coming down and they all just back up as they're all trying to merge right there together, and it just backs up. And so what we're seeing is a huge amount of people are using this route as a commuter route. It's not a mountain passing. This is a commuter route. We're a commuter state, and this is a commuter route. People are coming up here at work and then go back home, back down the canyon. So this will greatly help improve traffic flow.
So let's talk about timing. So under construction now.
Yes.
When will the intersection, we call it the Charleston turn, when can people expect that that intersection will be ready and the light is on and traffic will be, I hope, better meters, honestly.
Yeah. Well, the project isn't going to get completion until 2027. So we have another almost 2 years. But I know they're going to start on the intersection here maybe in the next few months. But right now you can see them significantly working on near the Island Beach Park area across from the marina right there. And we're cutting into the mountain. So that's why you're seeing the closures.
Right.
It's because we're doing the blasting. Right. We can't have anyone going through when we're blasting. We just get out of that. We need to keep everyone safe. So we close it down for 20 minutes, half an hour. We give them a window up to almost an hour just to be safe. And then very significant excavation they have to do, we do it at night. So I don't know if you noticed, we closed it 2 Saturday nights starting at like 10 p.m. till 4 a.m. And that worked really well. We message everyone. I tell everyone, look, don't try to go through this area. It's closed for 6 hours or whatever it is. So it's big, heavy lift that we're doing to the canyon.
Well, it's a lot of dirt. You've got big trucks. I was actually surprised because I remember a couple of years ago doing a tour with UDOT and talking about this project. And I think at the time it was a $20 million project. It's probably more at this point because we're moving so much dirt. And that split elevation was not on the plan when we did that first tour. But now that I see it, it makes so much more sense, especially seeing that split level that we already have at the Sundance area.
Yes.
And just the safety of separating traffic from ongoing. We have had so many local fatalities. We've had so many trucks that have gone over the guardrails and into the reservoir, which becomes an environmental mess. So we do look forward to that project's completion. I guess in the meantime, we just have to be patient and work with the crews that are out there. And
yes, please slow down through the work zone, drive safely. I know it can be annoying, but please be safe driving through the work zone. They're doing the best they can with getting it through, and progress. It's happening. You can see it. It's significant. And that marina that you asked me about, we're gonna have a underground tunnel that goes underneath 189 and the parking lot on that other side. So you can safely park over there, go under the tunnel, go to the marina or the beach area and go back and be able to turn right straight up to Heber if you want to.
So they are expanding parking. I mean, that's
I think be a big parking lot.
Deer Creek Reservoir really is limited by the number of parking spots that they do fill up, although we don't want to overfill the reservoir with too many boaters. But so there's that balance.
Yes.
But having this safe opportunity to pull in, whether you're coming from Provo or from Heber, you'll be able to park in the central parking lot and then come under the road to the marina.
Yes.
And that bridge is going to be big enough for boats and...
No,
Oh,
it's mostly walking.
okay.
Um,
So cars will still have to transfer.
if you have a boat hitched to your trailer, you're still going to have to turn it. But we're going to improve the intersection. There's going to be acceleration lanes that you can turn.
I'm so glad you're clarifying this, because I'm like, that's going to be a major bridge. If you're...
No, we were asked to do that, and it's just, I have the budget for that, and it wasn't warranted. So, but it's still going to be a drastic.
So you would still drop the boat, park in the central park, and then walk through.
Across, walk through if you want, or if you're going with kayaks, I suppose, or whatever, for a picnic, or however you want to do it, or if you're just going to the restaurant, you could do that. And
But it does. I mean, safety is the number one.
Oh,
To not be able to turn off that road. Right now, you see backup. You've got people going 65, and you have a truck pulling a boat.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, they're trying to get into the marina. We've got someone trying to take a left across. So we do look forward to that completion. I really think in a lot of ways, it's going to make that recreational facility more accessible. Geez, anyone that's a boater is cringing at that comment. But it's also allowing just better access.
Yes.
Which is the name of the game, right?
Yes. Better access and safety and better traffic flow.
Yeah. Let's transition. So we're talking about the intersection at Charleston, but there's also a signal light coming in into Midway on 113. I guess let's put a map out there. Let's talk about Heber Valley and UDOT's ownership, what roads they own. So right now, 189, Highway 40, and I think people often forget that 113. And that's the road that goes from Charleston to Midway, and then Midway to Heber.
Yep.
Is actually a UDOT controlled road.
It's a state railroad, yet.
So let's talk about this intersection that it's going to be on 113 and River Road, that intersection.
Which connects up to 40.
Right. Now, this intersection, I remember it being proposed, this signal light, and then it was backed off. There was some public concern. And so what was established, and this was probably 10 years ago, was, okay, we're going to put a signal light at the intersection of 113 and 113 at this time. Mm-hmm. And at the time, the signal light at 113 was put off. That could have been a financial decision. But I remember when that decision happened, we actually had a teenage vehicular accident within a couple of days of that decision being pushed.
Okay.
And I remember thinking at the time, so often we're so concerned about growth, and we want to push away projects that we perceive as change.
Yes.
Because change is uncomfortable.
It is.
And yet the inevitable is that light signal was needed and has been needed for the last 10 years. And so now, again, it's back. The traffic warrants it. It's very hard to get off of River Road onto 113.
Yes.
The development that's happening around that area, South Hill at Memorial Hill, and just increase in Midway.
Yeah.
But how does that process happen? How does UDOT bring a project up and then say, okay, the public has said, we're not quite sure. The traffic warrants aren't quite there yet. Funding seems to be the real reason why a project stops or goes. Can you talk me through that? Is that my perception, my experience?
Well, funding obviously is a big thing that needs to get for a project to happen. But we work very well with our cities, our municipalities. So we meet with Midway City, and they ask us for things because they're the representatives of the public in the area. They're citizens, and they make requests to us, and we look at it and we tell them whether it's warranted or not. And
by the numbers,
by the numbers,
traffic study.
We have to do a traffic. We say we always have to do a study first. We do a study, environmental study, and we say this is what is warranted, and this is what the study has come up with, and we can move forward from there to create a project. And then it goes into the STIP, the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, and then that becomes a project. Now, a signal is much smaller; they're less expensive, so we can usually do it through the region level and through the TOC with funds and things like that to get those done. But we have to sometimes, like this intersection, sometimes we want to improve the intersection. So we want to make some turn pockets, some curb and gutter. And so we got to take a little right away or here and there, work with some property owners and the city to make sure we're getting what they need. And so this is a significant improvement at that section because River Road is the main road coming in from the north. And it comes down and it connects right there. And there's no signal right now. So you're just at the mercy of whatever you can do to turn onto the road. And I don't know about Midway, but we got a lot of people who want to go visit and walk across the street. Jaywalk across the street to go visit the ballerina, go visit the playhouse.
But we have pedestrian. In one aspect, it's great because now we have this vibrant downtown, the town square. We have pedestrian traffic. We have shops. We have restaurants. But UDOT's responsible for the safety of the people that are utilizing that area. And so the light that was first installed on 113 at that corner intersection, I can't imagine not having that light at the intersection now. But even as you were talking, I was thinking, well, why didn't you do a roundabout? That seems to be more European themed. But does that not work?
Sometimes they do.
Okay.
We've been doing it other places. Sometimes cities, Spanish work likes the roundabouts, and we will work with them to put a roundabout. Roundabouts, just so you know, we have to allow trucks to get through roundabout. So sometimes that means they need a bigger footprint to get around so they don't tip over all it. So at that intersection in particular, it would probably have to grow.
Yeah. And
I'm just guessing.
Which means we would have lost 3 historic buildings because that particular intersection has the old Veterans Faux building.
Yeah.
We got the beautiful Hardy Foundation building and 2 Hardy Foundation.
Yeah, that's not real. Maybe back in the day, it probably wasn't warranted out. Something that big. It probably just turns. I mean, I drove through it just the other day. You get through it. Maybe you have to wait one time at the light, but it's not that bad.
Yeah, it's true.
Certain times of the year, though, when there's
Swiss days,
it gets pretty busy up there.
Right.
I've been there when it's like that, and I know what it's like.
It's so true. So let's transition to Highway 40 South.
Okay.
So Daniel Canyon, or Daniels Canyon, depends on if you grew up here or not. UDOT has completed a restoration project, but you're also doing a widening.
Yes.
Here at the 1500 South Light.
Yes.
That's a heavy truck route.
Yes.
But we're also seeing more neighborhoods, more commercial development, especially on the south end of Heber.
Yes.
I have always wondered, how does UDOT decide when it's time to expand a truck lane, a climbing lane, for example? Or in this case, the light there at Mountain Land Auto was installed in maybe 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And really that was because of the neighborhood traffic that we were seeing coming out on Highway 40.
Yes.
And really we had some fatalities. We had quite a few accidents. And unfortunately, it felt like it took a little bit too long before that light was installed. So how is it decided? How do you guys say, okay, now it's the time? Walk me through that process.
Well, again, we do need to work with our cities. We go and we meet with them, and sometimes they say there's a need here, or sometimes we tell them you have a need here, and we need to work with them on that. But also, I got to tell you, it's a lot of it is development. Sometimes a developer will come in and work with the city and not work with us as well as they should, because they're going to build in 1,000 units that are going to connect to our road, and they get a permit to connect to our road, and we're like, okay, looks like everything's good. But then they don't really tell us how much is coming. And then all of a sudden there's this need for everyone to turn left onto 40. And we're like, we need a signal. And that's where it should have come up earlier, where the developer and the city should have come to us and said, we need a signal. Let's work with the developer to help us put in a signal. A good example of that is actually the Smiths on 900.
Okay.
They worked with us and said, we know we're going to have significant traffic coming in and out. We want it safe for everyone to turn. And we said, good, put in a light. We will help you put in that light. We want to signalize intersection there. And so they worked with us and they did it.
Well, let me take it from when I was on city council, that story of one step further. So when the developer came in, they asked for some concessions of the city to improve the frontage and that intersection. And it was quite a few months of discussion about funding, because initially their ask was the city to participate in a $7 million improvement on frontage and intersection.
Mm.
And this project was approved prior to my town council. But then when they sort of upgraded, I remember the discussion about 2 turning lanes versus 1, because initially the traffic only required 1 turning lane.
Yes.
And it was through the discussion, through the research, through working with Craig and his team, that we really decided it was important to do 2 turning lanes, both coming down from Heritage Farms Parkway, the new road, 900 North, as well as Highway 40, at the cost of $1.2 million out of the city's general fund. Mm. And that was a significant decision on city council because the public felt like we were giving Smiths $1.2 million. But the reality was we were investing in an intersection upgrade, saying, hey, you could get away with 1 turning lane, but we really know what's happening and what's coming.
Yeah.
So it's worth making that investment.
Absolutely.
For the double turn lane.
And Craig knew because he's working on the other study, that we're going to have a connection through there. So like, we know we need it to be forward compatible into the future. So we want it wide enough and that we were able to fit that future connection right there.
Oh.
So yeah.
And it's those projects that I think are so difficult for the public to understand, especially funding, when they say, well, why would the city use general funds? Why isn't Smiths paying for this cost? So Smiths did reach out to UDOT and say, look, we're coming. It's a 160,000 square foot building. We're going to drive significant traffic. But then they went back to the municipality and said, look, this is a project that isn't just about us.
Yeah.
This is a project that is about all the growth that's coming.
Yeah.
So working together, we made it happen.
And that's fair.
And it's fair, but it was a difficult process. And we took a lot of hits from the public because they said, those are my tax dollars.
Yeah.
That developer should have paid. And it really is a balance. You know, I really felt strongly that we made the right decision. And I actually live on that side of the community. And so I use that intersection daily. And I'm grateful for the double turn lane. I'm grateful for the safety that it provides, both coming from south on 40, making that turn. I'm also grateful for the Coyote Canyon light that was installed. So let's talk about that one. So that one, it was, again, a developer comes in, the city approved 300 units with Ivory, another 1,200 units with Jordan Mill Ridge. It was a little bit like we couldn't get that light soon enough. So let's talk about how that happens.
That was one of those ones where the developer probably should have worked with us in the city to say, look, this many cars are going to be coming and trying to turn left. We're going to need a signal here. So they could have, in the beginning, at least made their opening to their connection there, their driveway connection into a Coyote big enough.
Well, they did do an acceleration lane and a turn lane.
They did, but it wasn't, we had to come in and make improvement. That's why it took so long. We had to do some spacing there to make it work. And then we also had to, get the steel and the lights and pull everything together. And it was, we did it pretty quickly, but it's one of those things where I wish we could have worked together sooner on that to have it come ready when everyone starts moving in there.
I'm going to hit a difficult subject. And so because of that light, or before that light, we had, I believe, 6 fatalities over a number of years.
Yeah.
Human error in every one of those cases.
Yes.
It's often talked about engineering versus human behavior.
Yes.
And a lot of times UDOT gets scrutinized for not engineering human behavior, engineering out the human behavior. I mean, that's so difficult. And it's so hard to even respond. But I'm curious, you guys work on this day in and day out.
Yes. The most significant one was the one at the Kubota station that happened last year around February. I think he pulled right out in front of a semi. We'll never probably know why.
I actually had interactions with that gentleman the day before.
Really?
he was working on a project in my neighborhood, and I walked my dog, and it's interesting because you look back at that and think, what was on his mind? I think he missed the turn. He missed the turn. He tried to come back out, and you just think so many things.
We see that so much. We see, I was going to give you a number here. That's what my zero fatality person told me. 96% of our fatalities on our roads are behavior related. Drunk driving, distracted driving, or speed, whatever it is. It's a human behavior that could have been corrected. And that's significant. And it's difficult to change people's behavior. Now, on our end of UDOT with construction, we're kind of in the boat of trying to protect people from themselves. So we're putting in barrier where we can, and guardrail and rumble strips and everything that we can to help as best we can with that. And we're going to put barrier up 40. We're going to put barrier on 29 because we see the need. There's just a need. And some people say, oh, we'll just wait for the other project to come in. We got to get going on this because there is a need to protect people from themselves, from being able to try to make those turns across traffic that they shouldn't be doing. So it is this significant ask of the public to correct your behavior, get off the phone, pay attention to the road.
So does UDOT respond when they see numbers like that? When they see, I think we had 5 or 6 fatalities over the last couple of years. Does that raise the priority on a project?
Yep. That's why we're doing the barrier. That's why we did the study on the barriers. And that's why we're going to do the barriers on 40 and 189.
So that's a more recent project. I think that discussion happened with the county and the city in the fall. It was interesting during those meetings. The county council had some confusion and didn't want barriers because they were concerned about access for property owners along Highway 40.
Yeah.
So you went to Heber City, the council approved it. They saw the need, they saw the statistics. You came back to the county council and said, hey, we want to, again, explain this project, and we want to work with property owners to make sure they have access.
Yes.
But the reason why we're putting this barrier is because of the fatalities.
Yes.
Because we're seeing the growth. We're seeing the number of people that are taking risky turns left and right. It's interesting. Sometimes we're so worried about preserving property access for 10 people that we're putting hundreds, if not thousands of people at risk.
Yes.
And I think that's a hard balance from a local elected representative because they want to represent everyone.
Yeah.
UDOT's job is to take the data and make decisions and fund things based on data.
Yes.
So with that, let's talk about a project that has become most polarizing in the last couple of years. So this is the Heber Valley Corridor project, often referred to as the bypass.
Yes.
You brought some show and tell with you.
Yes, I did. I brought the draft EIS here.
6 years.
6 years of study. It's just for everyone online. If you can't see this, I have 4 giant binders. If you stack them all up, it probably about 2 feet tall. And it represents 6 years of study for this project.
Now, this project has been discussed, I would say, in this community at least 60 years.
Yeah.
If not more. There have been multiple ideas and routes that have been bounced around from the east side to the west side to widening Main Street. It's been interesting even the last, I would say, 6 months, where we now are down to 2 options. I think you started out at 21 options.
26 options.
6 options.
26 alternative options.
Now, some of those options were public, like, here, what if you did it this way?
Yes.
And that caused some concern because a couple of those options ran through existing schools.
Yeah.
And again, you were open to public comments and public idea. But then when you really started getting into the research and the data, and you landed on these last 2 options that are, of course, running on the west side.
Yes.
Now it becomes real.
Yes.
So now we're talking about a real project with real funding. There were a lot of iterations that had super roundabouts. There were iterations that I know someone threw out a tunnel,
Yes.
just
We
tunnel
looked at it.
or bridge.
Yep.
So I think it's fascinating, though, that UDOT's willing to take even the wildest ideas and investigate it, research it, look into it.
Well, it's true. We've been looking for years to do something up here. And when, I don't know if you were on the council, it was before Franco, when the mayor of Heber said, we got to do something about the traffic on here.
Mayor McDonald, Alan.
And we said, yes, we agree. We're going to do.
Oh, it was Alan McDonald, Kelly Potter. Kelly Potter was the one that reached out to UDOT and said.
And we said, yes, we're going to do this study. This is our highest level study. We have 3 level studies. We have a mechanics, and we have an environmental assessment and an environmental impact statement study, which is the biggest one we have, and impactful, obviously, that it's going to be. And so, yes, we've been looking. I think Carlos, he's our executive director, came up and spoke about how in 87, he looked at going on the east side when there was nothing over there, and it would have been great. But then I'll quote him, the city went nuts. It was like, oh no, people are going to bypass all the gas stations and the restaurants, and we don't want that.
There was a major push within Heber Chamber of Commerce because there was a real concern. We were a highway city that was really, we were built around road travel.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a lot of fast food and that's and it was true. And there was concern because they saw what happened in Nephi. And there was this perception when I-15 rerouted away from Nephi that we would become Nephi. And yet now, 30 years forward, we're this thriving, growing, unprecedented growth.
Mm.
And we've outgrown Highway 40 down the middle of our community.
Yep.
And so when Mayor Potter approached UDOT and asked for the EIS study, it was for multiple reasons. Safety was number one. I think number 2 was historic preservation. We have a thriving downtown that is being choked out by trailhead noise. And I think third is just understanding the growth that's coming and recognizing that it won't be viable to run all that Highway 40 traffic through the middle.
Right through the middle of town. It's significant. We're responding to the growth is what we're doing. Utah is experiencing tremendous growth, and the valley here in particular is as well, as you well know. And we have to find a way to help move traffic through, not just around, but also through a main street, which the purpose and need of the study is to help regional travel through and also help Main Street, US 40 Main Street right through. And that's where the study always comes back to. It always comes back to that. What's the purpose and need? And so when we're looking at alternative A, alternative B, we're looking at what fits that purpose and need best. And not just now, but all the way to the year 2050 and beyond. We have to be forward compatible thinking. We don't want to build something that's going to be impactful and, a lot of work, a lot of money that just isn't going to work in a few years. Nobody wants that. So we have to look to the future. What's going to be best for the future?
And a lot of times people look at now. Well, it slows my traffic down now by 5 minutes. And that has been one of the sticking points is current traffic models show at 15 minutes from 1200 south to 900 north. Let's just use that main downtown.
It's actually 8 minutes from 189 all the way up to 40.
The new road will save a certain amount of money or time. What they're not realizing is without the new road, we are all going to be on the same road, which means it will be stop and go.
It will jump over 20 some odd minutes, maybe even half an hour. By the year 2050, gridlock. And if there's any significant thing that happens on the road, it's going to be fast gridlock all the way through.
Let's go through the 2 options. So option A, I call it the loop. So it's 189 western around the new high school, District High School, reconnecting at 900 north. Let's talk about some of the impacts to the southern end.
Okay.
So the southern end, I feel like, has been a little bit ignored. There's been a lot of discussion on the north, but the southern end won't change for option A or B.
No.
So let's go through a little bit of that. And again, we're going to have people imagine and then we put a map up. But Highway 40 coming down from Daniel Canyon, we've got the intersection. The proposed route is actually taking an off ramp.
Yes.
Down 1300 South.
Yes.
Connecting, and I call it a bow. So we've got a little bit of a bow coming around the sewer fields.
Yes.
And then reconnecting on a parallel road with Southfield Road. So Southfield Road stays a local road.
Yes.
This road then becomes a through road. And I think it's important that people understand there are no off ramps except at Midway Lane. And then again, wrapping to 900 North. But at 900 North on option A, it's another ramp.
Yes.
And that's why it's taking out so much property. So I think the numbers are 30 something properties on option A versus 8.
Yes, it's 27, I think, on A versus 8. So it's almost 3 times.
Yeah. So talk to me about option A from a UDOT engineering standpoint.
As far as
why that option is even there, why when the engineers were putting it together, we've got to come around the sewer fields, we've got to do this, got that.
When you're creating a corridor, a bypass, you want an expressway. Just think of the interstates or I-15. We call it a main arterial road. Like mainline is what we call it. And if you think of your arteries are important. You want your blood to flow. And same thing with our freeways, highways, expressways. You want it to flow. You want to get on and just go. Right? The quickest way to point A to point B is to get on expressway and just go. And if you want trucks and cars and people are trying to get around and through the valley to take that route, it needs to be a true expressway. In other words, you get on and you just go. And there's interchange, then you could just get on or get off the ramp if you need to go over to the Walmart or wherever and get off. But you want it to flow. And so that's why we're designing it the way we are with ramps and that connection through 1300, which has been a preserved corridor for 20 years, by the way, right in the city, to connect through, to have that connection that goes all the way through the valley.
Let's talk about some noise walls. So there's a neighborhood that, it's justified. They're concerned because their backyards are backing up to this 1300 South. It's interesting when you look at that road. So this is between the auto spa and Walmart. There's Chase Bank and there's a few businesses that are on that road. But it's been a really wide road since the development of Walmart. So we're talking 17, 18 years now.
Yeah.
That corridor will receive noise walls. That's part of the plan. To try to
the proposed.
Okay.
It doesn't mean it will happen. There's a valley process for all of our noise walls. So we do, once it becomes a project, we do a ballot for where it is warranted for a noise wall. And the ballot process is we take everyone along that corridor where the noise wall would be, and we ballot them to say, do you want a noise wall? Yes or no. 70% must respond. And of those 70% of that must say yes.
So if there is some onus on those residents.
If the residents say, I don't want it, then if enough of them say, I don't want it, then it won't happen.
Okay. So there's some onus that they need to take some action.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk about this route and Midway Lane. It's been an interesting discussion with the new Wasatch County Administration building and the new high school.
Yes.
Because now we're actually putting development right on the path. Does that impact UDOT when they're looking at road development?
Well, the actual path isn't right where the county council will be. It'll be over, and the high school is being built off of it, a couple blocks away. But it does, because we want to make sure that they have a connection. We also want students to have a safe connection, walking path, biking path to get through that area. And so we're designing that in that intersection. That intersection, it's going to be a spooey right there, connection along with a bike path that wraps around.
In my mind, I think of buses, and I played sports in high school, and just coming into different high schools, our region right now, we have a lot of Utah Valley teams that we play. And so they're coming up 189 and they're coming into town. Part of me is thinking of that 189 connector that'll drop them right at Deer Creek High School. And I think, it's a really cool entrance to come in that south way and land at that new high school and have those safety precautions in place. But before this road is built, there's going to be a signal light so that high school students pulling into MTech and Deer Creek High School will have a safe in and out. So
yes,
thank you for working with the school district to make sure that gets installed this summer.
I think the school in particular is a little excited about having an interchange so close to get their buses on and off, and for the baseball teams or soccer team, whatever it is, to be able to get on and off so easily for them and safely.
Yeah. Anything else on option A that we should know that's just from a UDOT standpoint?
Just, well, there was one thing that stood out to me in particular when we looked at the queue length, the amount of cars backed up at a certain, we looked at 500 North, what it looked like backing up when you compare the two. And with A, it was going to back up 3,500 feet compared to B, which was 700 feet. So that's 5 times as much. That alone is very significant right there. So that showed you it didn't have the forward compatibility that B had. Right. So that was one that really stood out.
So option A reconnects at 900 North. Mm-hmm. And we already talked about this.
There still comes a connection.
Yeah.
There will be a connection there. Right? Still, it just won't be as big.
Right. I know that Heber has actually preserved by purchasing 11 or 13 acres right off of Muirfield. And then, of course, we have the transportation or the transmission lines.
Yeah, the power lines. Yeah.
And so does that interfere at all? So Heber's kind of created a buffer with the 13 acres. So that 900 North comes in, you've got the transmission lines there. Is there anything else that we should be aware of as we're looking at option A and that map? And
well, there's enough room for it. I mean, you won't have to move those gigantic, expensive power lines. So yeah, but that is significant to make sure we preserve that corridor. And then if we continue with A up North 40, there is a lot of a lot of new businesses, homes. There's historic homes along that route that would definitely be impacted. I mean, 27 versus 8 on B. So it would be a significant impact to go up North 40 on A.
So let's transition to option B. So preferred route. In some people's minds, it's the heartburn route because it's now suggesting that we go all the way up the Northfields. It's interesting. There is a road there called the Northfield Road. Mm-hmm. That is an existing road. It's a historic road. It's dirt, it's gravel. It comes off of 600 West. And years ago, when I was looking at the maps, as UDOT was starting to have these discussions, I kind of had that thought, why wouldn't we just take this current road and run it up the north and reconnect at Potter's Lane? And it's interesting now to see that option B really is kind of following that existing road, also preserving some frontage so that the farmers and ranchers can get to their irrigation fields. What's the advantage really of A or B versus A?
Flow, traffic, and forward compatibility into the future. Generations, when our great grandchildren drive it through, they're going to be able to get through and not worry about traffic. And if they want to go downtown Main Street, they'll be able to do it without sitting at lights for multiple signals.
I think it's significant and important for people to understand that UDOT doesn't choose a route. We don't, Craig Hancock and just go, I picked this one or whatever. That's not happening. That's what the study's for. But an impact study like this is long, it's painful, it's very, very thorough. And its purpose is to flesh out the best option, the best alternative route, which is why we call them alternatives. They're not just options, option A, option B. It's the best alternative that meets the purpose of need of getting traffic through the valley and helping Main Street. And that's what came up. That's what was fleshed out was B.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Northfields, because that has been the heartache.
Mhm.
It is the crown jewel of our community. It's the last legacy of agriculture in this community. UDOT has said with option B, they will have mitigation efforts. So
Yes.
2-1.
Yes.
Help our listeners understand what that means when they talk about mitigating wetlands.
Yes. So it's 2-1, as high as 15-1. So for every 1 acre that we take to build this expressway, this road, we're going to preserve a wetland. Now, what that means with a wetland, it's not going to be agricultural. It's not going to be farmland. It's not going to be ranch land. It's going to be wild wetland is what it's going to be.
So area around the Provo River is what I'm hearing. And Provo River is natural wetlands. It's a natural, we've done some Provo River mitigation. We did some mistakes in the 90s that we had to kind of pull back in the 2000s. So when we talk about wetlands, it's natural wetlands.
It's natural. It's totally natural. You're not going to really have people in there or cows or horses or anything like. It's going to be natural, and we're going to have willing sellers to sell to us for that mitigation.
So UDOT will buy that wetlands,
and it will be part of our preservation of our corridor.
Okay. I can't help but think of other projects in the state that are similar. So I always look back at Legacy Highway.
Yeah.
Davis County, it was a long process. There were some hurdles that UDOT had to overcome.
Yes.
And now I look at that and I think, I don't know why it was so pushed against, because it seemed like such a natural opportunity to pull the traffic that was happening in Davis County. The through traffic on I-15, we now have 2 options.
Well, Rachel, you're thinking logically. You're not thinking emotionally, which is what usually the pushback is. They're like, all the beautiful wetlands out there near the Great Salt Lake. We need to preserve this area, and you got all the ducks and the cranes and all that stuff out there. But we preserved all that, and we did have a preservation along our corridor.
Yeah.
And if you drove out there in 2005 and the early 2000s, right before we started the project, there was nothing really on the east side of Legacy. But now they built and developed all the way up to our right of way. And it's full of homes and businesses.
So that's the worry. That is the number one worry. So I will tell you, I love the paved pathway that you built for Legacy. It's a great biking,
Yes.
walking. I've had an opportunity to ride it from down close to Farmington. And I know that people use it as a commuter now, that they're riding their bikes to work and exercising. But I watched the homes being built and built out right to the highway. And that's the true concern that we have here is, if we have this bypass and we have a 16 Highway 40, what's going to stop someone from commercializing everything in between?
Well, from our standpoint, from UDOT, if you notice on our B map, there's interchange up high and one almost, 3/4 of a mile, maybe almost a mile down. And there is going to be no connection in between. So you're not going to be able to have a driveway up to it. You're not going to have a connection to it. So it's going to be extremely difficult for anyone to want to build a business or a gas station or anything near that if you have no connection. But we don't control development. That's going to be up to the local government to control that zoning, to control that development. And they can work with us, but it will help to have that preservation corridor. Say, hey, look, there's no connection here. So I don't think you're going to want to do that.
Yeah. And I will say, from a local standpoint, Heber City Council and Wasatch County Council are committed to no development. They're committed to preservation of the agricultural fields in that area. And nobody wants to see that. No one wants to see homes. No one wants to see commercial.
Yeah.
We have enough, and we have areas that have already been entitled and will be developed over the next 20 to 50 years.
Yep.
Everyone is interested in preservation of the North Fields, but there is also a need for this transportation corridor.
Yes.
I want to also look at a project that UDOT continues to work on, and that's Bangerter Highway.
Okay.
Part of me looks at current Highway 40 and the lights. So we got 900 North, we have Coyote Canyon. There is another lighted intersection that is proposed at the bottom of a new road entering the UVU Wasatch campus.
Yes.
And that will come with development. There's a lot of high density that is being planned along the east side of Highway 40.
Yep.
I think of the original Bangerter Highway that was light after light after light.
Yep.
And like I said, it's been an ongoing construction project for UDOT because the growth continued.
Yeah.
And you're almost to a through highway at this point.
That one in particular is interesting because it's hard to look into the future because 40 years ago when we first proposed the Bangerter project, we wanted to wire bigger interchanges and all that stuff. And once again, just like usual, we got pushback. Oh, we don't need that. It's gonna be too impactful and all this stuff. Looking back, hindsight's 2020. We probably should have preserved that corridor at least, and then we would have been able to put these interchanges in without these huge impacts that we're seeing now. But it's difficult to look out 40, 50 years for anyone, but our engineers and our travel demand models are trying to do that. We have long range plans. Our planners are constantly looking to the future and working with our MPOs and RPOs to try to find the best routes for the future growth. And quite frankly, 40 years, even, 15, 20 years ago, I didn't expect the development that's happening here in Utah. It's amazing. Yeah. So we're playing catch up.
We are. And that's the hardest part is we have these long range plans. We have lots of discussions. When it comes to that final decision, that's where you see a lot of emotion.
Yes.
You see a lot of people that don't want change and aren't willing to look at the data and say, okay, this is the best route, even though it is different and it changes my community. And I don't want that change to happen.
Yes.
And I get it.
I get it too. I understand it perfectly well, Rachel. My home in particular, I used to have alfalfa field and cows and foxes, and it was gorgeous. And I remember talking to the rancher who came out, and he was along the fence line. I said, "Are you ever gonna sell?" And all he's like, "Oh no, I'll never sell." But then he passed away, and his kids immediately sold 2 Ivory homes. Now I have homes all next to me, and I lost all my view and everything. So I get it. Yeah. I understand, but I'm not a billionaire. You're not a billionaire, and this is America, and we want people to have the opportunity to build a home and have a home. And so we understand it's going to happen. But we got to try to stay ahead of it from a transportation perspective because it truly is the lifeblood of our communities. We're not all ranchers and farmers anymore. We have a house, we have a car, and we drive to the grocery store, we drive to work, and we drive back. We drive to school, we drive back. And that's how we are.
We still want to preserve that.
We do.
That's the biggest struggle that we have right now in Heber Valley is even though the growth is here and we know it's at our doorstep and we're seeing these builds that are turning into homes and we love these new people that are moving in. We also want to preserve this Western way of life. We were an agriculture community and somehow we want to hang on to that. And now there's this road that's being proposed that's going to run through the last frontier, the last area. Is there an opportunity to preserve the land with the development of this corridor?
I absolutely do think so, but it's something that the city and the county and the municipalities got to have to work to try to preserve that as best they can. If the project goes forward and we build this and we preserve that and we have all that wetland mitigation and we have no access, it will definitely help preserving that. But it's going to be up to the cities, the local governments to preserve that.
Let's talk about the price tag.
Okay.
I was really it took my breath away when I was glad for the final 2 auctions. I was glad for a final preferred route. It really took my breath away. $760 million for option B.
Yes.
In today's dollars.
Yes.
If this project doesn't happen for 6 or 7 years, I'm guessing it's $1 billion project.
It's getting close, yeah.
Why? Why does it cost that much?
So when we first had when we narrowed it down to 5 proposals, and then we got new travel demand model data that said, these aren't going to work. They're not going to work for forward compatibility. That's when Carlos had to come and talk to Los Angeles County Council. Basically says, we have to, I'll use a layman's term, we have to beat up our alternatives. In other words, they got to be expressways. We can't have just at grade signalized intersections. We got to have interchanges and a significant expressway that gets through. And that's what gets expensive.
It's a lot of money. So one of the things that I have been talking about for a couple of years, and I, earlier I mentioned it to you, is there an opportunity? Well, this is a US 40 road. Is there an opportunity to ask for federal funding to help with the construction of this project?
Absolutely.
I understand that UDOT has funding allocation through 2031.
Yes, we're programmed out to the year 2031.
So
our projects, all our projects.
What's the process for a project like this to get in line?
So once the study is complete this summer, Craig's going to push to get it into the next step. We call the statewide transportation improvement program, which is basically our prioritization funding list. And we can get it in there as soon as we can, hopefully at the top of the list. And then it's really up to the Utah State Legislature. We're at the behest of them for funding and what we need to look at to do. And so if they step up and say, hey, this is number one, here's the funding, here's the money, get it done, then it'll happen. More than likely, what I see happening with such a huge project like this is that we'll get in, we'll probably get near the top of the list, we'll get some funding, and by the year 2032, but I know we had a goal for the Olympics, and this project, as big as it is, would likely be about 3 years, but it also, because of how big it is, it could be phased. That's a possibility. It could be phased in, and just like a Mountain View where you have the frontage roads, and then now we're coming in later with freeway in the middle.
But does that cost more? It sounds like
it doesn't, because it's forward compatible. Because the frontage roads are put in, the signalized intersections are put in, and it allows traffic to flow. A route that works, and it'll work for years. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with Alternative B if it becomes a project, but it could happen, and we have to be prepared for that as a possibility.
Yeah. One of the hopes that I have is that as this project moves forward, as we secure funding, I really do think that it's important that we go after federal transportation dollars because it is on the U.S. transportation route. Yeah, it's
US 40.
US 40. My hope is that we can actually secure enough funding to buy the development rights out of the Northfields to preserve the farmland that is not wetland, that is actual farmland, ranch land in perpetuity.
Yeah.
That we can purchase it. And my concern is that if we wait and do local preservation bonds, we're just increasing the tax burden on our local community to preserve land in perpetuity that people that are going to use this highway are going to enjoy, because I really do see this as a future scenic highway.
Yeah.
We've got Timpanogos, the Northfields are beautiful. It connects between two reservoirs. I mean, that's what's always made Heber Valley special.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's this mountain community. And there's this feeling that how do we make sure that this bypass happens without destroying our community in process?
No, I agree. We definitely need to work together with the local government and everything to make sure that we preserve as much as we can of our heritage, of our pioneer heritage, but also of the beauty and the scenic, but also of the wetland areas and the agriculture. We don't want to get rid of that. I'm a little nervous with how much we're developing and getting rid of all this farmland. Where are we going to get the food? But it's important to always look at the big picture and always look towards the future of how our quality of life is damaged by traffic, and not just sitting in traffic and being bored or frustrated, but also getting emergency services and vehicles through. And another corridor like this, if there's a significant thing that happens, an earthquake, a major fire, you need to have another route to get out. We've seen this in other communities like Saratoga when they had their fire and they only had Redwood Road to get out. So it's important to look at that as well, as it's another way to get people through and in and out. So I do think it's important to look at all aspects of that and look at preservation.
Wyatt, this has been such a great deep dive? Is there anything that we're missing? Anything that your engineer said, don't forget to talk about this as you're talking about option A and B?
Just to know that we're responding to the growth. It is the why. Why are we doing this? We're responding to the growth. It is significant, and we understand that. And I know sometimes people look at UDOT and they say, oh, you should have done this decades ago. We wanted to. We tried. And the longer you wait, the harder it gets. I don't want to go through this 6-year study, all this work, all this process just to say, forget it. I hope that we don't do that. I hope that we move forward with something that benefits this community. I really do.
I do too. So currently open for public comment.
Yes, till March 9th.
Till March 9th. You can comment. We had public hearing last week. You can email Heber Valley EIS at utah.gov. The website is hebervalleyEIS.udot.utah.gov. Is there any other ways that you would recommend people giving public comment? And what is helpful? What kind of public comments are you looking for? What would you suggest?
Well, first of all, we appreciate everyone's comments. We want to hear from everyone. That being said, the most thoughtful and factual you can get with your comments, the better. The more insightful. Just saying, I love it or I hate it. Thank you, but that's not very helpful. I love the comments that are going into deep dive of why I like this, or I think it would be better at this because of this or that. We heard that at the hearing with some of the people. I remember talking to Craig. I like Nick's comment. He didn't agree with what we were doing, but he had very insightful comments about how we could do things. He got it. And also you gotta look at it. You gotta take a little bit of a deep dive, do a little bit of a study. I remember when we presented at the Wasatch County Council, and Mark Nelson, he does the Heber Valley Railroad, he's on the council. He said something significant. He said, as representatives, we got to do our study. We got to do our due diligence and look at this, look into what this really means and what this is really doing so that we can respond to everyone and be informed of what it really is. There's been a lot of work, and it's online too. You can look at it. We have a video that Craig did and Naomi did. That's half hour long that goes through everything. We have maps you can zoom in and look at. And honestly, if you go in there, you can do Control F and do a search and find your thing that you're looking for. You can look at the maps and see where your parcel is and see what it looks like compared to A and B. And I would do a deep dive into this. I really would.
Oh, it's so important. I do appreciate the number of people that have stepped up and offered their ideas and thoughts. I think there's more people that are just waiting for this road to be done.
Yeah.
They are tired of sitting at traffic. A lot of the Main Street business owners are saying, look, we're being...
Oh, I've heard from them.
Yeah. Traffic, and it's hard to find parking, and people are afraid to come downtown because, they want to get stuck, and they certainly don't want to cross Main Street without a light.
I would go to a light. I always do whenever I go to the county council. I go to the light because I don't want to turn left on one of those other roads that doesn't have a signal because it's difficult. But when I remember for years when I got to UDOT, I don't know what it is, but I must have been a community that got together, and I start getting all these click and fixes and emails and phone calls about turning left onto Heber, and I need more green time on the light. I don't understand why it turns yellow so quick. And the main reason is because they're trying to preserve that flow of main white flow. That's where the main flow is. And so that's why it goes green for a short time and then yellow. And it's frustrating for me too. I get it. But we got to currently try to get that flow through. And I've also heard from the businesses along Main Street. It's so noisy. It's so loud.
Articulate conversation.
It's parking. I've listened to the cops that come to us, the local Heber City Police. And it's difficult to pull people over.
It's here. They can have a conversation.
It's difficult. And I know Heber's doing the park and their new pavilion and all that stuff. And I took my kids up here to look at the Christmas lights, and we pull on Main Street, and I saw a family crossing. I was a little nervous for them, to be honest with you. I looked at my wife and went, we're not parking there. Where to park over here. It's way safer. I'm going around. I'm getting off of Main Street. So we get it. And we want to do something sooner rather than later, hopefully.
So the biggest question is there a possibility that this road could be completed before the 2034 Olympic Games?
I think a significant amount of it could, or at least enough that would help that flow of traffic for the game. Now, that being said, Carlos has said this, we aren't going to just build roads for a 2-week event in February of 2034. We're going to build infrastructure that meets the needs of Utahns and Heber Valley in particular. And I know people are going to come from Park City to go, or Soldier Hall for Olympics, come up from Provo. And I get that, and that will help. But the main purpose is to help people get through the valley and to help Heber Main Street.
This has been so good. Anything else as we wrap up that we haven't covered today?
No, just please comment. We look at everyone's comments. We do. And I understand that some comments conflict. If you live on North 40 and you're like, no, go up, don't use A, there's obviously someone on the other side that says, yeah, go up A. So you got to understand that just because you said it in the microphone doesn't mean we got an email opposing that. And also we have to look at the facts. We have to look at the data. We have to do our study. And that's what this is for.
I am so appreciative of the work. I know it's on a 6-year study, but it's much more than that. It's the emotion that your team has invested, coming into the meetings, meeting with the municipalities, educating the public. I'm just so grateful that we have these resources and that you are looking out for the long-term transportation plan, not just for Heber Valley, but the entire Region 3 and Utah as a whole. So thank you for the work that you do. Heber Valley Life Podcast, we have been all about elevating these stories and having good conversations. And today was one of those that I'm just really grateful to have the opportunity to sit down with Wyatt and go through this. If you want more information, you can always go to Heber Valley Life Podcast, or I would recommend for this particular project, Heber Valley EIS.udot.utah.gov. Spend some time on the website, read, and make your public comment. Closes March 9th, so it's important that you do it within the next couple of weeks and just be involved, stay involved, and we appreciate you. So we're grateful for Board and Law Group that lets us meet in this great studio, and Heber Life Magazine that is always out there putting positive stories and building up a community. So Rachel Kaler with Community Alliance for Main Street, here with Wyatt Woolley with UDOT. And again, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.